All right, Mike Butler, how you doing? All the way from Spellman over here in New York in the subway. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Never done this before, but super excited to be here with you. And I thought it was super nice to do something special for New York. And you're the first one to ever do this. So it's a really great practice run, let's call it, right?
All right.
But
I'm excited about this.
I got to ask you, right? So you've been at the same company at Spellman for like 20 years, 2 decades.
Yeah.
How have things changed? Like, what's different than when you started to where you are now?
I mean, everything's changed. I'm talking, when I first started, servers were some no-name boxes on the table.
Really?
The printer in the middle of a room. Yeah,
Oh,
confetti everywhere. Classic PBX type of phone system. So what do we have now? We have a SAN. Everything's connected.
Like there was no
Stuff in the
PBX
cloud.
system at all.
There's no PBX. No, we have Teams now.
At Teams. So if somebody receives a phone call, then they don't need to use a work phone number, for example, right?
Yeah, I mean, we still have the work phone numbers, but I mean, inter-office or international calls are all over Teams.
Right.
We still have phone numbers for people because nobody wanted to give them up. So they're still useful.
And do you think that like when people change from the past, which is like on-prem systems, physical appliances, I mean, I'm sure the PBX system was not like a virtual appliance. It was probably like a bit of a cost, right?
Yeah, it was a
And then you have it with those Cisco
wires everywhere.
phones. You had those Cisco IP phones everywhere.
Oh, we didn't even have IP phones.
That's wild. So then now you've changed to, how does that like, is it the risk that's changed? Is it the operation that's changed? Like, what would you say is like positive versus negative?
I mean, positive, I have Teams on my mobile phone, so I'm connected to work 24/7.
Right.
I could travel anywhere, so I can still use the same.
Still able to have the conversations wherever you are.
Absolutely. Yeah, I could be in an office anywhere.
But do you feel like you led that change being there? Like, would you say that there's a reason why you changed? I mean, because there must be some trend. And a lot of people always ask this. They're like, look, there's companies that have been here for 20 years, but what really incentivized you to make this change?
Look, we had a really good meeting. But yeah, part of it was, trying to not be on the bleeding edge, but, what's going to work? What technology is going to work? What do we have to do to move forward?
Right.
And it's always tough with IT because you don't know what's going to be.
What's going to be there, yeah.
Like AI, that wasn't on people's strategic
To be
plan.
fair, I don't think anybody really, I mean, because when you're a consumer, obviously, I'm sure when you were building it, it's different. But we saw the Dolly where you can create the images.
Sure.
But then I don't think anyone really expected how much of an impact it was going to happen.
I don't think so. And it's integrated in almost every
App.
platform.
I think integration is important though, right? Making it into the app rather than keeping it into like a separate product entirely.
Agree.
I mean, same thing with like, you probably moved from an on-prem SharePoint kind of a thing to using
Absolutely.
the 365, right?
Yep. The whole migration to Office 365.
Yeah. And so what would you say is like, out of all of those, what was like the best one? I know we're not even talking about cyber yet, but what would you say the best one?
I'm going to say Teams.
Really?
Yeah, because we had different, it was an Avaya system here, a Mitel or system here. Now it's like one system.
What system? Yeah.
And it's all integrated.
So Teams is like the number one.
I think so. I mean, that unified communication, you can have readings. You can share your screen. You can have a phone call.
That's true, yeah. I mean, back in the day, like that, honestly, ever the day since I joined, my first job was at Symantec, and we always had WebEx.
Right.
Somehow WebEx completely botched the whole pandemic thing, and Zoom took over. But it's always fun to see that change, right? What people are thinking. And then if you were to say, like, that's on the I guess the IT side of the house. What about on the cyber side of the house? Because a lot of your role is about blending those things together, right?
Sure. Trying to make sure that we let people do their jobs with cyber and not prevent them.
Because you have such an interesting problem is that you have so many users, not just in the US, but also in China, because as a manufacturing company, you have it all around the world.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with that?
It's been a challenge. I mean, some things are easier than others.
What's the most difficult thing about having an environment in China?
I mean, look, the most difficult thing is trying to get a proxy to work.
Proxy door. Very good dope plug over here.
Right? That's been the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
CASB, proxy, and get performance. Because once you're trying to send it from that location in China out to Hong Kong or Singapore, it's going to get botched.
Yeah, because of the Great Firewall, right?
Yes.
I mean, we saw this day in and day out, right? like, me for Symantec, Forcepoint, you keep seeing these things, but I think sometimes when it's a customer recognized issue, you feel sometimes it's like, oh, I'm the only one having this issue.
Right.
But in product management, I think the most important thing is to take that one out of one issue and create like a splattering of where is this happening, not just at Spellman.
Yeah, and I've asked plenty of times. I'm like, well, we're not, to some of the vendors, our proxy vendors. Can we talk to some other customers who I know there's other, I can see the companies down the street
Yeah.
that you have that are your customers.
There you go.
What are their pain points? Are they having the same issues?
It's funny, right? Because these types of things that you see, it's like they're everyday problems.
Right.
And I think sometimes we have to get to bare basics and bare necessities around what is the minimum gap that we can close and make your life easier, right? I mean, you mentioned Teams is actually a very good example. Like, how do you use Teams in a better way? Or how can Teams help you as a consumer? It's like it helped a lot.
It helped a lot. I mean, without it, I don't know how we would have gotten through the pandemic. I mean, we did need people to remotely get on their computers as well. We had that in place. We had VPN set up, remote desktop, secured remote desktop set up. But, without Teams, communication, you can't communicate. What do you do? When there's a Teams outage, it hurts.
I think, like, for me, I've seen so much transition even from a cyber perspective as well. Like back in the day, like some people didn't even have an antivirus. They didn't even have a proxy, right?
Right.
Just going to throw this back here. So what would you say is the big change that you would have had on that side as well?
It'd be EDR.
EDR?
I'd say, yeah.
But what about EDR that makes it different? Like, what is that specifically? Because EDR means a lot of things to a lot of different people.
It does. So one of the things that it means to me is, if we have a unified platform in the cloud, we can see globally all of our clients. We're getting all the information, but we're also having somebody else keep an eye on it 24/7. So when I go to sleep, I know that there's somebody watching it.
Right.
It's super helpful.
How are they watching it? What are they seeing? But when it comes to EDR, like, is there something? What would you say is like the one thing above and beyond like antivirus? Because sometimes, for me, honestly, a lot of companies, 200 people, 100 people, like they're just using it as an AV. So what is the EDR-y kind of part?
Well, okay, so it kind of goes into a whole other piece, which the Dope platform has, which is, what apps are people using on the cloud that are sanctioned and which ones aren't sanctioned? So you really need to know, because the whole world has changed.
Yeah.
Really, I started. There's cloud platforms for anything that you can imagine. Some good, some bad. Some look to be good and contain stuff that's malicious.
And so then, like, usually, what would you say is the thing that you catch because you have the EDR in place? Like, what would be call it a regular occurrence?
I mean, so a regular occurrence would be, some type of executable that's not recognized. So it gets quarantined. We have to look at it. Is it something that somebody's developing in-house, firmware?
Or they might be developing it. But sometimes it must be a true positive as well, right?
Absolutely.
And so do you have an idea, like, how did it even get into the environment? I mean, I guess if you were going to in other words, like, what would you recommend to someone that's in your position or that wants to be in your position? Like, what would you tell them to look at when it comes to an organization of your size?
Gotcha. That's a great question. Really, what's on the endpoints? What are people downloading? Most of that is blocked. If you have a good swig in place, you can prevent it, but sometimes things get through. Either they download it or through an email.
Oh, they got it from an email, they downloaded it, and they just put it in. And I guess with a large company, it's very difficult to be like, guys, do not download a PDF from wherever and double click it, right?
Right. I mean, and then we have training platforms, right? If you get a PDF and it sends you to something that looks like Office and you go to put your credentials in, probably you don't do that.
Don't do that, yeah.
Report it.
Well, I think
fish.
Do you think that the reason why it's more likely is because people are just not paying attention? Or do you think it's that because they're not that tech savvy? Or what would you say? I'm not saying it's a bad thing, by the way. It is a fact of life.
It is. And I think we're really lucky, though, because we do have a good training program.
Right.
So we do simulated fish testing like weekly. And at first, it was very difficult for people to understand why we're doing it. But now I think people actually really understand it and appreciate it.
Right.
And there's just so much less of it. People are prepared. People are reporting that kind of stuff. Business email compromises or pretending to be somebody else, or an actual customer gets their email taken over. It happens. And they're looking for us to send a payment to someone that hasn't ever done it before.
Yeah, but that's the wire fraud one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so at least they're coming to you now. So then would you say, like, if that happens, I mean, people always talk about, oh, the impact is huge. It's like, but being very, very real. What would you say is like the impact typically if there's an issue or a breach? I don't want to call it breach, but if a malware gets into your environment, what would you say is like the least amount of impact that could happen or the most? From your experience.
Okay, from my experience, I think it really depends how you set up. You have to have backups in place.
Right. I'm assuming because you're talking about ransomware.
Yeah, ransomware. I mean, so your backups aware of ransomware? Do they notice a whole bunch of file changes at once, and is it going to alert you?
Right. So basically retain the N-1 version if all the files are getting encrypted rather than just...
Right.
Got it.
And we have some stuff set up where there's a script. If it detects a bunch of files being changed at once, it automatically logs off the user, locks down the computer.
Got it.
And that's been really helpful. Now there is false positives. You know, somebody's moved a lot of information, or engineers doing potentially something that they're working on. So it can be a little bit disruptive.
Right.
It's worth it for a few minutes of disruption as opposed to weeks or months. Or
I guess I'm thinking about the disruption, and I'm also thinking about the impact. But I guess in some cases they may lose their data, but you're saying there's a backup solution, then you don't lose your data, right?
correct.
Got it. But then that's an easy case. But what if you say what would be the worst? I guess that would be a mega impact to the organization.
Sure. I guess a mega impact for any organization these days is probably somebody in your network that you don't know about. And, being able to detect that. What are they doing?
Yeah.
What's their goal? Is it to take your intellectual property? Is it to take sensitive information and blackmail you?
Right.
And that seems to be more the trend, right?
Yeah, it's
How do you get money from people? Ransomware, I think it's still there, but I think it's really more, hey, I've got your really sensitive information. I'm going to expose your customer information. Then you lose everything.
or your schematics or whatever it is. Yeah. You think that you could explain what it is that Spellman does? We never did that actually.
Sure. Spellman makes high voltage power supplies for a variety of different systems. CAT scans, or MRIs.
MRIs.
Yeah.
Because they take a lot of power, or...
Well, it's really power conversion, right? So you're taking regular voltage and you're converting it to high voltage. I'm certainly not an engineer in the high voltage powers, but
You're listen, man, I deal with the security, the IT of it. However,
we have some fantastic engineers on staff who really give the customers what they're looking for. Customers may come with a custom solution. Our engineers are there, and they'll build it.
do you think that when you've been going in and that, again, seeing that transition from where you were in the past to where you are now, are you happy? Do you think you could do more? What would you say if you were going to do more? What would you do?
Sure. If I was going to do more, I think more of the same that we've been doing, but really the big push is how do we integrate, back to where we started, how do you integrate AI in a way that people can use it and stay safe?
Okay.
Because we're getting a lot of requests for it.
Hey, I want to use...
AI from all different departments.
What would be the number one use case that you see? I know these are so silly questions, but I'm just curious. Here.
One use case, I mean, you know what? Somebody actually sent me a paper, and I've been working on a paper, but how can you integrate it in your manufacturing?
Right.
What can you do with automation for AI?
So basically a projection or
I mean, maybe to help project.
Hey, this is what the input is, and then what can we accomplish from that?
Correct.
Got it.
Maybe it's analyzing, our supply chain information and
how do you help encourage that today?
People are really asking for it.
Okay.
So it's not that we're encouraging it. We're trying to figure out how do we
Deliver
this in a safe way. How do we keep?
But have you blocked it today? Have you blocked it today?
No, we've blocked. Oh yes, we've blocked.
Okay. So ChatGPT you can't access.
Correct.
Thanks to dope.security, proudly. But you can't block it today. Yeah.
Where we have dope deployed.
Yeah. By the way, dope jacket you got on there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So.
You guys shouldn't have. Thank you.
No. Yeah. I'm taking it back out. No, just kidding. I swear. No. But I think it's interesting, right? Because it's today you have to block it because I guess is the risk that somebody could use their personal ChatGPT account, upload a bunch of whatever data, and then the
right, and then it becomes ChatGPT's data.
Yeah.
So where is that going to wind up? We don't really know.
I guess it's slightly different than back in the day with the risk with a Dropbox, for example, or a WeTransfer. It's technically speaking, although you're uploading the data and it could be considered as a data exfiltration, technically speaking, they're not going to use your data for some purpose, right?
I don't know. We don't know that.
Well, I mean, on a box or Dropbox, yeah.
Yes, right. And the public ChatGPT, you know,
They could use
the
it.
EULA says, yeah, we could use it.
Yeah. And I think that's where there's like a delta between, because if you think about it, this is almost like a repeat movie of like 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Everybody was like starting to use these services like a WebEx or a this or a this, and like all these different communication services, and also file sharing services were very big as well. A Dropbox, etc. But now,
And where's that information going? So
yeah, it's going to a server.
corporate info, put it on their personal Dropbox.
But then the problem, I guess, which is the scary part, is now that data could be utilized to train a model, and it's kind of in the model forever now.
Right. And, you know, and then if your competition starts asking the right questions, they know how to write good prompts, they might be able to extract that data, right?
Right. And I'm sure, so there's a balance. So then what would you say if you were going to recommend, as you've gone through this journey, what would you recommend to other people? Like, what would you have them do if they were going to go in and do this themselves?
Analyze it, see what the options are. How do you protect it? You lock down your browser, make sure certain information can't be exfiltrated through the browser, because that's how you're going to interface with AI. Do you get your own subscription? Ensure that
Another option, right? Another viable option.
Yeah. Make sure that your data stays your data.
Yeah. So then do you think
Build your own, I don't know, you know?
So sometimes there's like this balance, right? It's like build versus buy, right? So for me, it's always like, can we utilize a tool and technology that's going to allow us to be safe whilst also having access to, say, for example, these whatever?
Yeah, the vast amount of info that you want to get that's already there. So how do you keep it safe? Because if you build it from the ground up, that's going to be a long journey. And you're probably not going to have data that you really want.
It's not your day in and day out job, right? So why would you do it anyways? Exactly. So then, like, you have the security part, you have the IT part. So what would you say is, like, if somebody was going to go into your role tomorrow, what should they do? Like, how should they approach it?
That's a great question. So if they were going to go into my role tomorrow, I'd say make sure you have a good foundation. Make sure you have the right security tools, the layers of security that you need for a good...
Because those are actually helping you, the layers.
Absolutely. And then, you know, focus on how do you safely implement AI.
Yeah.
You know,
just because everybody wants to use it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you Glock it, you're going to encourage people to
figure out a way around it.
Right. How are they going to figure out a way around it?
Yeah. Especially with something like that, because they can accomplish their job better. That's the mentality, right?
Right. And that's what we really want to do at the end of the day, is empower people to do their jobs more efficiently and better. Right?
It's so funny to see like this whole process, right? Because you start with something as simple as, hi, I'd like to no longer use this PBX system.
Right.
So now I'm using Teams, which is great. But now it's like, okay, but we're also need to secure everything because now it's all around the world and interconnected. But now we're like at this next level where it's like, you gotta fucking make sure it's gonna be,
See?
Otherwise someone can just extract the text and you're in business, right?
Yep.
So what would you say, like, as a person that's leading this, and you guys have quite a few people as well as the organization.
Absolutely.
What do you say, like,
no, we're very lucky. You got a great team at yours.
most annoying, most painful challenge, maybe your pet peeve that you would say would be that?
Oh boy. Great question, pal. I don't know if I really have a pet peeve.
Well, you gotta have one.
I mean, yeah, sure. If we're gonna get back to that, I mean, I guess my pet peeve would be the difficulty of getting applications to work correctly in China.
Oh yeah. Oh really? Like IT applications or security applications or both?
Yeah, I mean, once you put a proxy in, it's like, hey, I can't use Office 365 anymore.
And it's like, why?
I want to have a CASB in there, because you need to have these tools to be able to...
But then it frustrates the employee, and then you guys have the end of it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I do believe, though, like, sometimes the technologies from a cyber perspective, they try to go in and see what's hot.
Right.
And then attempt to build a marketing story around that, which I get. I mean, if you have a person that's their job, that's important. But it becomes this weird problem because there's those main use cases that you're like, dude, does this just work?
Right.
Or does it not work? Like, it's an example, if this is waterproof or rainproof, does it leak or not?
Right.
Very simple. Before you go in and add all these frills and nice things, is it rainproof, waterproof? That's it.
Yeah.
Makes your life way easier. So that's one. And what would you say is like an example, I guess, besides the proxy I ran? I know that one really irks you a lot, especially because of China, right?
Hey, absolutely. Look, I mean, that's what Dope brought to us. When you have a proxy and a SWG on the endpoint, and it's not going for every piece of information back and going out and coming back and getting stuck somewhere in the middle.
The Fly-Direct, right? So
Right, the Fly-Direct. It's been a game changer.
Yeah, it helps a lot. I think like when we look at problems, we sometimes have to rethink them, right?
Yeah.
So we think about the same way we were doing something a long time ago. Can that be done better?
I don't think anybody else has done that yet.
Well,
You know, I really don't.
I think being differentiated is super important. So I guess when you had to have differentiated yourself somehow as a person, as a leader, what would you say, how were you able to do that?
I think some of it's tenacity. And
Like,
not giving
what
up
would
on
you
a
say for someone else that wants to be like you, basically?
Yeah, you got to just keep working at it. You can't give up. You got to be motivated, and you have to, have tools that you can rely on that are proven. But you also have to look at what else is there. Where are things going? Where are they changing? We can't predict the future,
Yeah.
but you certainly have to be aware of what's happening, and keep educating yourself, keep reading, keep doing research, stay in communities where there's like-minded people who share information.
Share the
Really
information, put it together, and then that's how you learn and become better. And if they want to be you one day, what do they do?
Just keep working at it. I mean, you don't give up, you keep getting yourself educated, look for more certifications.
Make an evolution, right? Don't just keep the same thing there from 20 years ago.
Yeah, you can't just keep the same thing and just hope it's going to work in 5, 10, 20 years. It's things are going to be completely different.
Exactly. I mean, and I love that, evolving with the times, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, listen, Butler, you're the man. Thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for being our
Kunal.
guinea pig here, which is wild, but really, really cool. Thank you again, man. Super fun, man. See you soon, yeah?